What happened to him? He was here a minute ago.
And Olivia.
He went, she went to call.
We'll be here around 10.
Where do I start?
We could start at the back of the agenda or at the beginning if you want it. It's up to you.
I'll start with the agenda. You ready, Glenn? Excuse me. Good morning. The Lancaster Wetlands Board come to order. I want to introduce everybody. Jay Woodruff represents VMRC, but he's not here yet. He'll be here around 10, as I understand it. Staff is Olivia Hall, Bill Farrell. Glenn Rowe is operating the internet connection and the screen behind me. Crystal Way is our clerk. On the board today, we got Hunter Sled, Will Tolles, excuse me, Bruce Julian, and Andy Ransom. I'm Cecil Little. I'm the vice chairman. The chairman, Edna Revere, is not here today. She's a little bit under the weather, and she seems to be doing better yesterday. She should be back next session. Bruce would like to make a couple of comments before we start.
Thank you. Thank you, Cecil. Just a couple opening remarks. A couple of weeks ago, I had the good fortune of representing the county in seeking a VMRC permit for the Windmill Point County Park Shoreline Protection and Restoration Project. Our application was approved by the commission in a unanimous vote. And unfortunately, Jay's not here to hear this, but at that time, I recognized Mr. Woodward of VMRC for his outstanding assistance to the citizens of Lancaster County and the county staff and the Wetlands Board, saying that we are very much appreciative for Jay's counsel, his guidance, timeliness, except for today, he's not too timely, as we consider and evaluate projects ensuring compliance with county ordinance and the Code of Virginia. Today, I want to thank everyone in this hearing room and the contractors who helped the landowners of the county to protect their property while conserving natural resources to ensure the projects comply with county ordinance and the Code of Virginia. The decision makers here on this wetland board are here as a result of being asked or volunteering, or a combination of both. We are all volunteers. All members were appointed by the Board of Supervisors to this board in unanimous votes by the Board of Supervisors. And we took a sworn oath to uphold all the ordinances of the county and the laws of the Commonwealth. While serving in our voluntary role, we are subject to personal liability. We experience character defamation, slander, and threats. One might ask why anyone would want to sit up here. Again, I thank you all for helping this board perform its job to make the county a better place for everyone while conserving and protecting natural resources for all who live and visit the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you. We got a full vote today, so I want to start without Mr. Woodruff, and I guess we can fill him in later. The first permit application is Anthony. Is there someone here representing Anthony's? Could you step forward, please, and state your name for the record?
Wayne Savage with Bay Design Group.
Thank you. I will read from the posting on the Rappahannock Record. David N. Anthony, care of Wayne Savage, P.E., Bay Design Group, P.O. Box 51, Urbana, Virginia, 23175, requests permission to place an existing pier and boathouse with a new 165-foot-long L-shaped pier and 28-foot by 12-foot boathouse to be located channelward of its current location, with a 67 linear foot bulkhead to enclose the boat slip and dredge 87 cubic yards of sandy material from the proposed new boat slip and shoreline along the shoreline of Tabbs Creek, located off of Sea Haven Drive on Chesapeake Trail. Lancaster tax map number is 35C-B11, VMRC number is 22-2522. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. As we discussed a little bit on site the other day as well at our site meeting, the impacts here to the local Wetlands Board area is very, very small. We're dredging the dredging really just because of the slope. It just barely impacts, actual anything landward of mean low water. This project and the purpose of it is to get the pier and the boathouse out to water. Right now, the boathouse is on land because of the sand infill there. So we're pushing all that out into deeper water where we're hoping that it won't fill in, which is also the purpose of the bulkhead and the reason for the dredging. And potentially in the future, there may be maintenance dredging necessary here, depending on what happens around the point. I know there's another application that was approved a couple years ago at the point for a breakwater, which I believe will also help with keeping the sand from moving around that point and onto the Anthony's side of the beach. So that's the project. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. Just to have them give them the ability to have a usable pier and boathouse on this project. I'd like to also address, there has been a couple of comments and letters that have been sent out from adjoining property owners, one of which I believe is the Suskies, and excuse me if I'm mispronouncing anything, but they own the small strip of land right there just past the Anthony's to the beach, or what was a beach. And there was also another neighbor, and I forget the name, but they were further inland, but part of the subdivision as well. Made similar comments, and we received that yesterday. But their comments are in relation to an ongoing litigation case about the access road to the beach. And I'm not going to get into any of those details. My point of addressing this is to say that this project in particular for the boathouse and the pier and the dredging and the bulkhead is 100% irrelevant of that road and that litigation case. And I don't feel that that should be taken into consideration as far as your approval and or denial for this project. It's irrelevant. And that's all I want to say about that. I'd just like to keep that out of discussion here. It's not any of our places to speak on that. I'm not an attorney. And you guys aren't the court. So anyway, that's all. If you guys have questions for me, I'm happy to answer any.
All right, I think that this project, what you proposed is within the jurisdiction of this board. And there may be some superfluous questions here and there, but I think the board needs to just look at the jurisdiction and not comment on the ongoing problems. Anyone on the board have comments?
I'd like to hear public comments.
Oh, we're going to.
I don't have any comments. No comment.
Any comment?
Thank you.
Mr. Woodruff, you didn't hear all of that.
Over here.
Good morning, sorry I'm late.
Good morning. Welcome back.
What
You
day
just
is it?
missed some praise.
Was there, I'm sorry?
Bruce was praising you. You missed it.
I was complimenting you on your timeliness.
You ever heard about falling from grace quickly?
1 month.
Yeah, well, no, it was quicker than that.
All right, we're looking at the Anthony project right now. The agent has just given us an idea of what that encompasses.
You want
Yeah, come
to
back.
ask for that comment, staff comments here before Jay,
I'm sorry?
Sure.
till he collects himself?
Yeah.
You want to ask for Olivia's?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you look at the agenda, there are 4 public comments listed. One was the Suskies comment to VMRC, and a similar comment would be public comment number 2, which came directly to the Wetlands Board. And then the third public comment was the response from Wayne, which you just heard as well, which he vocalized. And then the fourth public comment came from another neighbor, which was Stuart Harris and Sandra Jones. In light of the comments in opposition, I asked Jim Cornwell, the county attorney, to weigh in and provide guidance. He responded that the Wetlands Board needs to consider the Anthony project on its own merits and approve or deny based on that. The objections are a separate issue not related to the Anthony application before them and should have no bearing on the decision they make.
Okay, Bill, any,
None at this time, sir.
no comments? Is anyone in the public care to address this project?
We got one.
Okay. Glenn, you have a...
They didn't hear you. Can you say it
Cecil, they
again?
need to speak up. They didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. In the public, is anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this project? Come forward and state your name for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Stuart Harris, and I own property in corner of Tomahawk Trail and Chesapeake Trail. And I know the Suzuki project has been approved by the board, and I think that project should be able to take place before any other approval or construction is done. Evidently, the approval has been done, but they have not been allowed to have equipment to come down to do the work by the Anthonys, who have put up no posted signs. I've been there for approximately 10 years, been using that road. My deed says I have access to that road right away. So I feel like this project should be postponed until the Suzuki property and that work to the beach and all has been properly done, and then see how the Anthony proposal works out then.
Okay. Any other comment?
Thank you.
Okay. Glenn, you have an internet comment?
Yes, we do. All I have on this one is a phone number. I don't have a name.
I'm sorry.
I do not have a name on this one. All I have is a phone number.
Hi, this is Deborah Suski. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I am not asking, what I'm asking for is a delay in decision. We would like to have gone down there to look at the property and look at the project. My lawyer, Stan Murphy, could not be there today because his federal case got extended by a day. But we have not been able to go down and even look at the project because the Anthonys have denied us access to the road by sending a threatening letter saying that if I go down there, they will have me arrested. As such, now I know you might wonder why don't I just go down there anyways if I feel like I have a right, but I am concerned because of my job. I could lose my clearance, or my clearance could be suspended if I'm arrested, and even while that's going on, then I would lose my job temporarily. So that's why I have not disobeyed the signs, because they did send a letter threatening to arrest me if I go down there. So as such, I have not been able to go down there. My lawyer and I would like to walk down there, look at the project, and then make a comment on it. So we're asking for a delay of approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you up to speed, Jay? You have a comment?
I'm not going to make any formal comment other than the impacts channelward of the low tide line, the dredging portion, and the boathouse relocation does require our permit. The state will wait on making a decision before until the locality, as is common practice, longstanding policy. We don't take an action until it's approved at the local level.
Okay. Board?
Any other comments?
Does the public have any more comments?
I have one question regarding our jurisdiction only. Bill, did you have a comment?
Vice Chair, are you closing the public comment?
If you want to close the public comment period?
We'll put it
Well,
this
this-
way, you
this
have to
board-
close it if you're going to.
This board doesn't close public comments because it's an open,
No.
But if the public's done speaking, you can close public input.
okay. Public comments closed.
I just have a staff question. Since this does involve within our jurisdiction, the relocation and rebuilding of a boathouse, Bill, do you find this consistent with county ordinance?
Yes, sir. It would not be setting a precedent. The county has allowed this in the past.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
She said she didn't hear you.
The question was about the relocation of the boathouse to the pier with the extension of the pier. And that does not set a precedent. It has been allowed in the past.
Okay. No other comments? Could I hear a motion to either
Speak in the mic.
approve or deny? Or table?
I make a motion to approve the project as submitted.
Is there a second? All in favor? The motion's carried. Next project is Widener. Someone here represent them? Come forward, state your name for the record, please.
Joseph Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia 22482. I'm the agent for the applicant.
All right, got to read the posting. Thomas B. the fourth and Cynthia Widener, care of Joey Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia 22482, request permission to install 60 feet of riprap revetment along the shoreline of Mosquito Creek, located off Virginia State Highway 641 on Mesquite Road, tax map number 39B7G, VMRC number 23-006. Go ahead, Joey.
Yes, so this is basically extension of existing riprap that's there along an eroded portion of the shoreline to tie back into the pocket marsh that's on the west side of the property. And you guys saw the site. I wasn't there when you guys saw this site, so I guess if you have any questions. There were some trees along that portion of the property that were removed because they were undercut. That was all information that they had. I think it started with Brian because they were losing those, and they decided to just go ahead and extend that riprap against that bank there. And I think, probably should have been done the first time, but I guess there wasn't as much of an erosion problem there at that particular time, so they didn't need to extend it that far.
Okay, VMRC, any questions, comments?
No comment.
No comment? Staff?
No comment.
No comment, sir.
Mr. Rowe? Any internet connection? No, sir. No. All right. Comments from the board?
Is there anybody in the public?
Public.
I'm sorry. Anyone in the public want to address this project? Since there's no public comments, I'll open up to the board.
I just have it looks like this minor improvement, Joey, isn't being helped by removing vegetation and scalping everything down to the ground. Have you talked to the landowners about proper best management practices on reducing runoff or trying to help control in addition to what you're recommending here? I'm wondering if the landowners understand that.
The contact I've had with these folks has been through the contractor, so I don't know if the contractor has discussed that with them or not. And that whole portion of that property there is obviously pre-Bay Act. And the house is right on the water. It's just one of those things, in my opinion, that that's the way they used to do it, sort of thing.
Yeah, you cut the-
And that's why and I guess what I'm saying is that's why we get what we have. So I just think that if they were to put the stone against the base of it and run it into the fringe marsh, that would give them protection. But yeah, obviously, if there's more that they could do along the shoreline in terms of trying to get some vegetation there, it would help them out. And that's typically what I tell folks. But, you know,
Who is the contractor they're using?
Earth Resources.
Thank you. No
So-
no further
No
comment.
further questions? Anyone else?
No.
Could I hear a motion?
Move the project be approved as it's presented.
Have a second?
Second.
Been approved and seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried. The next project is Revere. Is someone here representing Revere? Okay, we'll wait. State your name for the record.
Yes, Joseph Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia, 22482. I'm the agent for the applicant.
Okay, I'll read the posting. Richard and Alice Revere, care of Joey Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia, 22482, request permission to install 100 feet, 35 feet, and 45 feet of riprap revetment, 125 and 25 feet of stone seal with 1,000 square feet of clean sand and nourishment and vegetation, wetlands planting to create a living shoreline, and 1,000 square feet of bank grading and shaping along the shoreline of Yelps Cove, located off of Virginia State Highway 637 on Yelps Cove Road, tax map 33, 484D, VMRC number 23007.
Yes, so this particular project is a mix of both revetment and sill living shoreline. And essentially, the goal when I laid it out was to try to put the revetment in areas that I thought was appropriate. Those areas being towards the left of your screen right there to the south. That's a pretty tall bank that falls off pretty quickly. And there's a lot of tree coverage along the shoreline, so I just told the applicant that I thought it would be better to go ahead and do a revetment from there to that large oak tree, and then they could swing out and do a sill in an area that's a little bit more appropriate for it in terms of being able to shape the bank and slow down some of that wave attenuation that might go up there. And then the area by the pier, again, is a revetment, mostly because it has similarities to the other area where the bank face is very flat. Then there is a ravine where the 25-foot section of stone sill is. Try to push that offshore so that that can continue to kind of do its natural thing. Putting in a sill there should help with that some in terms of the runoff that comes from that property and the neighboring property, and kind of filter some of that stuff. And then from that point beyond, just connect into the existing revetment that the neighbors have, because that whole entire hill is covered with mountain laurel. And, I think that's a good thing, and I wouldn't want to suggest that they rip all that up and grade it all down to make it the way that it should be to address that. So kind of leave well enough alone in that section. You guys have any questions?
Okay. Mr. Woodruff?
Well, I guess you've public comment first.
Mr. Woodruff, any comment?
No, I'll tell you, I would be more comfortable if you take all the public comment first. If it's all the same to you, that's just kind of how we always did it. I'm here to observe, your all's action.
Yeah.
I'll comment on whether or not our
Okay.
permit is necessary. I just don't want my comments jading the
Thought I'd
process.
give you a chance.
I'm sorry?
I said I
He
thought
just
he
asked for public public comment ought to go first.
I'm sorry.
Jay just suggested that the public comment should go first
Oh, okay.
before the staff comment.
All right. Public, anyone in the public want to address this project?
No one online.
Okay, Joey?
Yeah, I guess if you guys have any questions for me.
Is that it?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you guys have any questions
No-
specific to the site
no
or
other-
anything.
The portions of the project that are channelward of mean low water require VMRC authorization, but we will wait on that until the Wetlands Board renders their decision on the intertidal impacts.
Okay. Staff?
It looks like a beneficial project for the shoreline, so.
Glenn, any activity? Comments of the board?
My only comment, here again, we've got whether the previous or the current owner stripped and cut down most of the vegetation, which is exacerbating the situation,
Yeah.
right down to the water line. And it really concerns me that landowners are not understanding or not receiving enough counsel to see what's making situations worse. And while we can say we know exactly what our jurisdiction here is, excessive erosion, excessive runoff isn't going to help anything that is in this application to help succeed. So I just continue to see this denuding of the areas that are going to have adverse impact on plantings and water quality.
Okay. Honor? Bill?
Ready?
Sorry.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I want to make a motion to approve this project, inclusive of Mr. Scott's recommendations on page 18, and that of the planting plan, as well as I want to see the, I want this board to revisit this after completion, in our review of these sites, to ensure everything's working as it should, what's working, what's not. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? 5-0, motion's carried.
Thanks. And just to add a side note, which it's out, it's over with now, but these folks are looking into the grant money that's available to assist with paying for the portion of it that's living shoreline. And that process, just so you guys know, you may already know this, it's very in-depth in terms of how they review things. If they come back, if they get the grant money and they come back, it has to be doing what it's supposed to be doing. So we haven't gone down that road yet, but that is a plan, just so that you know, so.
Which program are they trying to tap?
The Soil and Water Conservation
Conservation
District money.
VCAP.
Yeah, yes, yes.
VCAP.
So,
Thank you.
and I've done several of those, and that's more intense than this sometimes because it involves money, their money, so, anyway.
I also want to add something after the fact. They have filled out a water quality impact assessment and do have mitigation plantings for the disturbance in the RPA. So it will be improved in the RPA.
Okay, thank you. The next application is Owens. Is there someone here to represent Owens? Is that?
Yes, sir, that's mine as well. Joseph Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia, 22482. I'm the agent for the applicant.
Let me read the posting. Saltair Properties Owners, excuse me, Association Incorporated, care of Joey Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia, 22482. Request permission to remove existing 14.5 feet wide by 82 foot long, 26-foot channel work of mean low water concrete boat ramp and replace with proposed 82-foot by 14.5-foot wide concrete boat ramp, install 160 feet of riprap revetment along edge of falling timber jetties, and install 20 feet of riprap flak protecting two 10-foot sections along the landward edge of flak timbers growing along the shoreline of Rappahannock River, located off Bull Creek Road on Landing Drive, tax map number 25D-69, VRMC numbers 230118. Go ahead, sir.
So this is a replacement of an existing boat ramp. Pretty much in the same footprint. The only new impacts are going to be with the revetment on each side, as opposed to using the wood that's there now. Putting the wood back in there would be difficult because there is some scattered rock on each side of the wood. So when I met with a gentleman down there to take a look at it, I told him this is what we would propose, putting rock on each side of the existing jetties. They can cut down those jetties. They'll have to come in there and recreate another base with some stone, and then precast concrete on top of that stone so that the ramp will be functional again. And then I figured since they'd be down there doing all that rock work, then why not go ahead and reconnect that jetty next door, not next door, but on the other part of the property there, if they wanted to do that. That was just kind of, I told them it's not getting any easier to get permits, and it's definitely something that needed to be done, and it's pretty justifiable, because if they don't get some sort of reconnection there, you know, the Northwest comes up in there behind it like it obviously has since I've been down there, and gets in behind there and washes that sand out. So, I guess, well, public comment.
Okay. Thank you. Quite a project. Any question? No? Observe? Staff?
No comment.
Public?
Online?
Thank you.
Nothing online.
Nothing.
So I guess if you guys have any questions for me.
So Jay would like to comment after the public comments. He wants
Yeah.
us to go public comment first, and then staff, and then Jay, correct?
I just, that's the way it's always been.
Sure.
And I would, because of VMRC's role today as the oversight authority over making sure the meeting is handled properly, the public has its chance to comment. I don't want any of my comments going before anybody else's comments for fear that they're going to sway the decision process. So what I will just continue to say is either it needs our permit or it doesn't. This one, the portions of the project channelward of low water needs VMRC's permit. We will wait on our permit decision until after the local Wetland Board permit decision has been rendered.
Okay. Pardon me, I had a Biden moment there.
I can't hear you there.
I had a Biden moment there.
A Biden moment? Oh, I get it.
Forgot where he
Public
was.
comments? No comments? Joey?
Just if you guys have any questions that I can answer. I feel like it's pretty straightforward, just using a little bit different structural material than what's there now, based on what's existing.
Okay. Staff? Internet connection?
No one online.
Nothing?
Any objections to this project?
No.
Written objection?
No written objections.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it?
That's exciting.
Comment? Entertain a motion?
Move that the project be approved.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0. Motion carried.
It's not too often you do a homeowners association one that doesn't have an objection, at least for me.
Wish you hadn't said that.
You haven't started building it yet.
You might as well stay there. You got the next two.
Yeah.
The next one is Smothers, William S. Smothers III. State your name for record, please. Joy.
Yes, Joe Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia 22482. I'm the applicant, I'm the agent for the applicant.
Okay, I'll read the posting. William S. Smothers III, care of Joey Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia 22482, requests permission to remove existing failing riprap preventment and install 150 feet of riprap preventment, a 15-foot stone spur, a 50-foot stone sill, 450 square feet of clean sand nourishment, 300 square feet of bank grading, 200 square feet of backfill, and a private use pier, 100-foot channelward of mean high water with a 250 square foot L-end low profile boat lift and associated mooring piles, along with shoreline of Hunts Cove, located on Virginia State Highway 650 on Mill Farm Road, tax map number 2962F, VMRC number 22-2809. Go ahead.
Yes. So I inherited this one. The work was already underway through some miscommunications of the contractor that was there and the former staff here and yada, yada, yada. Who knows what was true and what wasn't true, but anyway, brush in that area that was, that light gray area that is drawn on there was removed from the shoreline there. I believe it was probably consistent with all of the material that is up behind that marsh right now, but who knows, because it's gone by the time that by the time that I got there. I can't speak for Olivia, but it was my understanding that she was notified, and she went down there and had the contractor stop and do the temporary erosion control, matting, blanketing, seeding, all the sort of stuff that they needed to do to get it stabilized while the Smithers went through the correct process of getting this permitted. And it's also my understanding, Mr. Smithers at no point was, or even the contractor, and Olivia can speak to that, you know, no one was adverse to that. I think it was just they thought they were doing something that they had already been okayed to do. So along comes a phone call to me, we need to get a permit for this. So essentially what it started off as was just fixing that revetment that's there, but I told the folks involved that since you're going through the permit process for that, the best thing to do would be to incorporate some other aspects of erosion control measures there. And he could actually create himself a little non-vegetated access area as well. So the idea is to go in there, remove all that stone that's there now, put some filter cloth behind it, because obviously there wasn't a whole lot behind it to begin with. Have a little spur off of the end, create a little non-vegetated sand area for access to a little bit of grading above that to bring that down in there, and then run a stone sill in front of the existing marsh, pocket marsh that's there now, close to the Larrabee property line. And also in being in compliance with removing the brush that was on site, they also created a landscape plan, a WQIA landscape plan to go in and replant in the 100-foot buffer area. I know that's not in your jurisdiction, but that's just kind of the whole big picture story. So at the end of the day, it's repairing existing riprap, adding a spur, building another sill, and then also grading that little area in between those two structures down so that it will have a little bit smoother wave transition onto the shore, and then of course planting that area that is going to be graded with patents to make sure that it kind of functions the way that it's supposed to. Public comment, I guess.
Is that, any public comments, questions, complaints?
Online? Nothing online.
Good.
Mr. Woodruff, any comment?
I think he wants me to go first and then he'll go last. Is that correct?
No.
Or do you
That's-
want to go first?
Kind of how we always used to do it. I'm just,
Okay,
it's the pleasure of the
I
board.
got to do it, sorry.
okay.
Staff?
As Joey said, Mr. Smithers was very cooperative in working to achieve compliance. We did work with him and his contractor to get the site stabilized after the unauthorized clearing. And he has filled out a water quality impact assessment. They'll be installing 60 plants in the resource protection area. And this work will coincide with the work that Joey's doing, and that will bring them into compliance with the Bay Act. And I don't have any comments on the project itself that Joey's proposed.
I just want to thank Joey for advising this landowner on a better way to solve this resource concern and working with county staff, and glad we have a landowner that wants to do the right thing. Thank you, Joey.
Welcome.
Any other comment? Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the project as submitted, inclusive of the recommendations on page 18 regarding the plantings, and looks like a great project. Thank you.
Yep. Second? Second. Got a second? All in favor? 5 and no, motion carried. The next and last project is Larrabee. I think Joey Scott has that also.
Yes, Joseph Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia 22482. I am the agent for the applicant.
Let me read the posting. David T. Larrabee, care of Joey Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia 22482, requests permission to remove existing failing riprap revetment, install 200 feet of riprap revetment, a 10-foot stone spur, 200 square feet of clean sand nourishment, 1,200 square feet of bank grading, and a private use pier, 200-foot channelward of mean high water with a 250 square foot L-shaped end, low profile boat lift, and associated mooring piles along the shoreline of Hunts Cove located off Virginia State Highway 650 on Mill Farm Road, tax map 2962E. VMRC number is 22-2778. Go ahead.
Yes, so I guess the first thing to tackle is the stuff that's not in your jurisdiction, just so that's out there and letting you know how it's being handled. The 200-foot pier has been pared back to 100-foot. There's actually a ton of shoaling off of this particular piece of property. I don't know how or why. I'm not a coastal geologist or a scientist or an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor, but there's definitely sand out there, making it a lot more shallow. So we've pared that back to 100 foot because Mr. Larrabee believes that that's all he should be sufficient for his needs for the vessel that he's going to keep there. And that those revisions have been made and sent in. As for the rest of it, it's basically repairing what stone is there, pulling it out, and putting filter cloth behind it again. Filter cloth is what does the work, not the stone. It's like the key secret that no one really knows except the good contractors. Filter cloth does the work. So that comes out, new filter cloth goes down. There's going to be a spur that comes off of that end that ties into the proposed sill from the previous project, Mr. Smithers. Build up a little bit of sand in that area too. I'm sure all of it will get taken over by the grass once it has a little bit better elevation to thrive in. And then on the end, I believe it's points 3, 2, and 1. There's no revetment there at this time, so that'll be new. But as you probably saw at the site down there, that is an undercut like 8 to 10 feet. The roots of the pines are actually holding the ground there, and you can fall through and go to where the water is. So those trees will be removed, and that stone will be wrapped around into the existing marsh that is on the adjacent parcel. And yes, there will be tree removal here. There has been a WQIA filed for that as well. A lot of the trees that are being removed are in really bad shape, dying or been taken over by ivy. So the hope is to get those out of there and then come back with something that, where they can do some planting for trees that will hopefully be a little bit more productive in the long run, as opposed to the ones that will probably be either in the creek or in the cove or dead within the next 5 to 10 years. So, public comment, I guess.
Anyone in the public want to address this project? Internet, excuse me. Staff,
I have no comment.
no comment.
The small portion of the spur to the right-hand side of the project does extend channelward of the low water line. So that portion does require a permit from us. I will, because Joey brought it up, I had gotten an irate phone call and then a very irate email about the length of the pier, which is not within this board's jurisdiction because it's a private use, non-commercial, open pile structure exempt from wetland. Still needs to get reviewed by us. Talked to Joey. They agreed to pull it back. So that calmed everybody down and hopefully resolved that situation. But that's all I have.
Okay, anyone on board?
I got to just say, I've never seen suspended pine trees before. I'm thinking there's, Mr. Woodward, did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking there could be black bears living in there.
I first noticed it when I was on the shoreline, and I looked underneath there, and I was like,
You
holy
could see
cow.
through.
It was easily 8 to 10 feet if I had nerve enough to crawl up underneath there, but I'm 20 years removed from 20, so I don't do that anymore.
Motion?
I'll move to approve the project as presented.
Second. Moving second, all in favor? 5-0,
Thanks.
motion's carried.
Thanks.
Next order of business is the Lancaster Wetlands Board activity report. The staff address it.
Okay, if you turn to page 2 of the activity report, in 2022, there were a total of 35 projects, a total length of 7,437 feet, and a total cost of $3,412 and, $412, am I reading that wrong? And $80.
Okay.
That'll be presented to the board.
I'd like to make some suggestions. This will be the third year in a row that I think both the county and the state doesn't recognize fully recognize the benefits of the projects when we're only measuring shoreline distances. We're looking at some huge projects here and investments by landowners, millions of dollars, and we're not capturing the total area of the projects, particularly as we look at things like being considered at Windmill Point. We're just stretching a tape and measuring a line. And and also, I don't think this report recognizes all the general permits issued for living shorelines. Does it? Am I correct?
That's correct.
So we're really not capturing the total investment by landowners. We're not capturing the total area impacted and benefited. And we're totally ignoring all of the great things that living shorelines are doing that don't show up on this report. So I'll try again. This will be the fourth request, that we start capturing at least the area. And I know with Mr. Woodward's database, all the permits are captured, correct, Jay, on living shorelines? All the GPs?
Yes.
So,
This is the first I've heard of the request, so noted, and
Yep,
I will
you're-
work on that.
I knew you're new here. I'm not scolding you. I mean, I just found, I'm a broken record up here because landowners need credit for what they're doing, and I bet you there's way more than $1 million worth of work. The other thing, I'll direct a comment to Mr. Scott. I think with about the fourth year we've been doing this, I'm amazed at how cheaply these projects can be done on the JPA. How cheaply, less expensive. And, I mean, these projects couldn't have been done, a lot of the projects, or every project that we see, looks like it's being estimated from 1960. And since the permit application has nothing to do with the application cost, has nothing to do with the cost of the project, I wish we could, I think that 3 million is way low as far as total investments, or what these projects are costing. I'll bet you it's more like 5 million investment, because, you know, to see some of these projects that are estimated for $50,000, and everybody in this room knows they're gonna cost $150,000. I hope we can have the consultants and the contractors give a more realistic investment that landowners are making. I think it's really important to recognize in 2021, just for information for Bill and Olivia, you know, we did a big press news article in the paper bragging on our landowners, and I think there's way more positive things to report that the county's doing, and so I hope we can make things look even better, because they are better.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So how is that
come
number-
forward, state your name.
So how is that number computed?
This,
So
This-
here you go. Joey Scott, I just have a question. So it's always been my understanding that it came from the building, whatever was filed when it did the building and zoning permit. That was the concrete number, because now you're dealing with a contractor who can give you, I'm not a contractor. So I just go per linear foot and multiply it, and that's done. I mean, my understanding of that whole part of the JPA really is a threshold number for VMRC. If it's over 500,000, then it's a whole new ballgame. So either way, I don't care, but I was just wondering do you guys use the building and zoning, when they come to get a zoning permit for riprap, do you use that number that a contractor supplies you with, or are you using my numbers, which are wrong?
I can't speak to what Brian did in the past, and
Okay.
Bill might know, but in this instance, we used the information that was provided in the application
Okay.
by the agent.
All right, well, I don't know how you guys do that, but that might be a better representation, honestly. When a contractor gives me a number, I use their number. When there's no contractor, I just use a $200 linear foot. Call it a day, you know, because that's my job, as I see it, really is more creating a drawing that you can assess the potential environmental impact, rather than giving these guys, you know, the number. And I usually tell them, I said, it could be anywhere from $150 a linear foot to $500. It just depends on how they get here, what the access is. If I start doing that, then I'm just going to be a contractor, and I don't have to come to these hearings anymore, because I'll just pay somebody to do it for me, so. But anyway, that's just, because I run into this sometimes at VMRC too, and it's like, everybody's quick with the data, but, I mean, I did go to college long enough to know that you kind of have to know where it came from. So if it is coming from the JPA, then it is definitely skewed.
And I can comment, since you're commenting about VMRC, I don't know who else in the process at the local, state, and federal level uses that information in that question. I do know that we use it because it's total cost of the project is X. Total cost of the project channelward of mean low water is Y. If that Y value exceeds $10,000, your permit fee goes up. Now, if that Y value goes more, it used to be 50,000, that got bumped up to 500,000. And again, your permit fee could go up again.
How much?
The permits are either 100 for less than 10, 300 for 10 to 500, and 135. 500 is the most we charge for any permit. Our royalty is a whole separate matter.
And that's above $500,000?
Above a $500,000, Above a $500,000 is a $500 permit, but it also requires the action of the full commission. Our staff, like the Lancaster project last month, our staff has the authority to approve things at the staff level if they're under a certain threshold, and that threshold has always been based upon project cost. But I don't know that we ever use that on, use that cost as a comment on tax revenues and benefit to whatever else. While we were talking about it, and you had indicated 7,000 some feet of shoreline, as a longtime dedicated VMRC employee, when we used to have the annual Wetland Board meetings that VIMS would put on, way back in the day, it was at Hampton University, and then they started having them online, and anyway, when we ask for a project, how many feet of riprap do you want? I want 100 feet of riprap, okay? While that's a reasonable data point to have, I've been arguing long and hard that when somebody wants a 100-foot-long sill with 10 to 12 or 15 feet of vegetated wetlands behind it, why are we only capturing the 100 feet of sill? We're capturing the impact, but we're not capturing the benefit. And I know people will say, well, you're really just, in cases where it's a revetment or a sill in front of an existing fringe marsh. You generally don't get credit for not letting, if Mother Nature takes that away, that's Mother Nature taking it away. If you put rock on it, that's an impact. But to me, I think that the property owner needs to get some sort of benefit for preservation. They give preservation credit for mitigation banking all the time. Got a bunch of wetlands over here. Part of the benefit of this project is we're going to save those wetlands. Well, wetlands are already protected. You're saving them from what? Well, saving them from future development by permit. So while wetland creation can be a one-to-one kind of thing, I'm going to fill 10 feet, I need to create 10 feet. Okay? I'm going to fill 10 feet, well, I'm going to preserve this stuff over here, this marsh fringe, this beautiful marsh fringe, which VIMS will tell you and others will tell you, sea level's rising, it's going to erode, it's going to drown, it's not going to be there. So trying to get back to his point about your report numbers, I feel the same way, not on you, but on us, that we got this no net loss thing, and we're real quick to tally up, the square foot of impact. What did you protect? Well, we're not keeping track of that. I don't understand why. Why are we tracking linear feet of sill when it should be square feet of vegetated wetland creation? And then the argument is, well, you got to go back and monitor and make sure it's there. I don't know the answer, but it's really difficult to make someone who has private property, who wants to protect that private property, whether that private property be a marsh or a yard, by moving everything out of their intertidal zone to the high tide line, so you're avoiding any intertidal impact, and then just writing that off. That's going to go away anyway. You're sort of giving up on it. So I like Bruce, I've been banging my head against the wall at our staff level saying, there's whoever it is, Wetlands Watch or Sierra Club or whoever's going, God, VMRC, you're giving away all kinds of stuff. It's like, well, wait a minute. We're also creating a lot of new living shoreline. We're preserving or protecting a lot of vegetated wetlands. And I brought up the VIMS thing because VIMS, a lot of times their report would be, last year in Lancaster County, they issued 1,000 feet of bulkhead, 5,000 feet of riprap. Okay? Is that it? Is that all we did? Well, didn't you build a few groins that held some beach? And wasn't there a couple of breakwater projects that built some beach? And wasn't there some silt? Oh, we don't track that. Well, maybe you should. I just, in equity and fairness, and that's just, at the end of my career, I'm starting to wonder why we spend so much time on the minutia of the bad stuff, but nobody wants to open their eyes to, wow, things are better than they used to be. Is the bay as clean as it was when John Smith rode through here? No. Are there more people in the bay than there were back in the 1600s? Yup. Is it better than it was 10 years ago? The oysters would tell you so, the SAV would tell you so. So, in addition to Bruce patting me on the back, I will I can't, because I get a crick in my neck when I do
You're
it.
too old, you're too old to do
I'm
that.
too old, I cramp up.
Hey, Crystal, let the record show that Mr. Woodward and I agreed on something.
Yeah, yeah.
Joey, a perfect example of today's hearing, Cecil, was the little dinky protection you gave on salt air, the little dinky riprap you put there to protect that wetland, right there at that boat ramp, which is, and the footprint is what, Joey, 8 feet? 8 feet to get the groin reconnected to the land, and it's gonna save that inbound, the wetland of, which is a huge area, which is owned by the homeowners association, I guess. But if that breaks through, the whole, what is it, maybe an acre or two wetland is at risk.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna report 8 feet. That's where we're missing the boat. And we're not crediting the landowners with what they're doing. There's a whole bunch of good people out there spending a lot of money. So I just stop on that sermon and hope we can give credit where credit's due. And then it also makes Lancaster, as always, look better than every other county.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the comment, and you also.
Do we need to approve this activity report?
Yes.
Because it's, is this, is this a statutory code requirement, or?
I believe, yeah, annually it gets sent. I'm not sure what we do with it. I
It
believe you
goes to
also
the
send
Board
it.
of Supervisor for approval, and it also goes to VMRC, correct?
Yeah, and I thought there was a time when it went to to VIMS, but I don't know if it went to VIMS through us. But, yeah, I'd like to get a copy of that for what it's worth, and, not for what it's worth.
Apparently, it's very inaccurate, but
No, no, no,
No, it's not. It's not inaccurate.
I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. I mean, you put some effort into it, and these are numbers, and I'm not saying the
It's only
numbers
half,
are
it's only
wrong.
half the story.
But I'm just saying, I think the way the system is currently designed, and, you know, I don't want to say lifelong, but a 30-year regulator that also believes that the people have a right to protect their property, as long as it doesn't interfere with, I mean, it's in the code.
Yeah, you got, on the front page there, Olivia, you got Virginia Code Section 28.2-1304, so it
That's
must,
it's in the Wetlands Code,
so we got to do this.
yeah.
I think we can make it look better and give landowners the credit where credit's due.
next year.
Is that it?
You guys need to approve it, I believe.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Ready?
Appreciate it.
It's been moved and second. Everyone in favor? 5 no. Motion carried.
We can get the addendum next month, the amendment, Olivia.
What's that?
We can get the add-on next month.
The next item on the agenda is a wetlands permit application compliance checklist memo. And I'd like to read this into the record. I put this together and I passed out some supporting documents. So I ask that you please review the attached wetlands permit application compliance checklist and Wetlands Board minutes of October the 13th. The October Wetlands Boards approved a revised checklist, which was an in-house document to be used by the board as guidelines when reviewing permit application, and it was not intended to become a requirement of the permit application process. However, the Board of Supervisors subsequently reviewed the checklist and revised the existing permit application to include the list as a requirement for the new permit. I've identified what I believe to be at least 2 of the items of the list that is both costly and redundant. First item, it's on the list if you take a look at it. Most recent land survey plat by a licensed land surveyor. So in this county, surveyors are very difficult to schedule and very costly to the agent, contractors, and ultimately property owner. The second item that I researched was planning, a plan for all vegetation, species, amounts, spacing, maintenance, planning schedule, and replacement. Is redundant as the county also requires a land disturbance permit which incorporates those requirements. I feel like this is a duplicate effort. I asked the Wetlands Board staff and others affected by this revision take some time to review the checklist and make comments, changes, or deletions to the list at the next Wetlands Board meeting. Further, any revisions made to the list should be sent to the county administrator for approval and forwarded to the Board of Supervisors for action. I think Bill has talked to Don Gill, the county administrator, about item 1, and do you want to address that?
Yeah, so just want to confirm, you're making a motion for county staff to address changes? Is that what you're proposing?
Okay.
What? He's asking you a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, my hearing is bad.
That's all right. So you're asking county, you're making a motion to ask county staff to address what was previously approved?
All right, could I hear a motion to address it?
I don't think we need I don't think we need a motion. Do we, you need direction?
We need direction to make
What-
changes.
What are you asking for? Us to review this?
Yes. Well,
And them too?
Yes.
Well, I would just, this process took over a year by this board.
I
So,
understand that.
so, and I was just reviewing the state code. And I believe personally that plantings within our jurisdiction that are approved by this jurisdiction, within our authority, it doesn't have anything to do with the RPA. It doesn't have anything to do with the land disturbance permit. It's within the wetland permit. So I don't see the problem there. The land survey thing, I guess we got properties in this county that don't have a survey
That's
since,
correct.
since Captain John Smith.
Yeah.
And I would think that there would easily be an exception made when that doesn't exist. But, we've had situations where, since I've been on the board, where activities are slopping over onto an adjacent property owner because nobody knows where the property line is. So I see that as a liability if this board or VMRC starts approving projects and we don't know where the bounded property is. So those are my concerns.
It's the homeowner's responsibility to identify where those property lines are.
I understand that.
And also go to the county and
I
get a
understand.
plat.
I understand that. But we're approving, we can only look at the JPA. That's what we're looking at.
Well, all I'm asking is that everybody concerned take a look at this and bring it up next meeting and we'll kick it around.
Everything we put in here, we tried to mirror the requirements of living shorelines. I'm just reading right here about the board shall not approve, talking about the new regulations, anything in violation of other codes. And so that's how we constructed our new, 28-year-old policy. It was intended as a guidance. It's not the Bible. But when we started seeing people coming through here that hadn't paid their property taxes, that's where we tried to pick all these things up. So, this is really a policy that advanced from this board to the Board of Supervisors. And if changes are going to be made, it would come from our recommendations. It's the county policy, not the board policy. That's all.
All right. Somehow this checklist got to the Board of Supervisors, and they did approve it and make it a part of the new permit application.
Well, it got there because we advanced it there.
Well, if you read, actually, it's your words, not necessarily for approval, but for concurrence.
Mhm.
So we didn't ask them to approve it and make it part of the, okay? So bottom line is, I don't know what y'all feel about it, but
I mean, I personally, I just don't know how you establish what you're doing without a survey.
I'm sorry?
I don't know how you establish exactly what's going where without a survey.
I don't know.
Vice Chair, Mayor. So basically, I'm going to try to sum this up. So the Wetlands Board approved it, the Board of Supervisors approved it. Before any changes can be made or even addressed necessarily, it has to be a motion by the Wetlands Board for county staff to address changes. And then we can present at the next meeting. But without a motion for us to make changes, we can't.
Okay, I'll make a motion. Let's make a motion that directs the county staff to review the current policy that the Board of Supervisors has concurred and approved in, as signed by the county administrator, and determine if there's anything inconsistent or in conflict with county ordinance or the Code of Virginia. And if there's anything that's in conflict, I certainly would want to see the opportunity to point those out. I would suggest we also have the county attorney look at it from a legal standpoint, so that we don't create a risk of liability that something we approve, maybe there's something missing. We don't want to overstep our bounds, but we want to keep the car between the guardrails, that we are, I mean, our ordinance says that. We're going to comply with ordinance, we're going to comply with the Code of Virginia. So I would hope, and Jay, that includes you too, if there's any suggestions, although we did offer you that opportunity over the last 15 months. If there's anything else, and Randy, if there's anything we need to change on it, let's change it. We don't want to be challenged in the future in a legal action where we've overstepped our boundaries. That's my motion.
Second.
Do I hear a second?
I will second that motion.
Second, all in favor?
Thank you.
The last item on this is the approval of the minutes for December 8th. I hear a motion.
Motion to approve. Motion to approve. Minute.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? We close the public hearing at, looks like it's 10:47.